is Talking to America. I'm your host, Aaron Zellman. Our guest today for a repeat visit is Ryan Horsley of Reg Trading Post in Twin Falls, Idaho. Welcome, Ryan.
Good morning, Aaron. How are you?
Good. Today we're going to do a follow-up on the great treatment that you've been getting from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives and how kind they've been to you. The last time we spoke, a judge had granted you an injunction. Now, what was the injunction for? And I assume this appeared to be a good sign, but then what happened?
The judge granted an injunction, and in that stating basically three things. One, that the ATF had failed to produce a 2001 audit and a 2007 audit, which showed us in perfect compliance. And he had also noted that the ATF had been double-counting violations, and also the fact that we were not a threat to public safety, which the Director of Industry Operations had contended. And so after that, it seemed to be going on pretty well. However, we then began to get more frequent audits. In fact, in the 2005 audit, we had one inspector covering 5 years. Now, we've had several audits since, and now we've had 2 inspectors and an area supervisor come down for each of those, which they can only go back to the last audit, so they're only covering 2.5 to 3 weeks in each of these audits, but extremely scrutinizing everything that we do.
Are they trying to undo their incompetence by coming in so often to audit your books?
Well, it's interesting because they've countered what they've said before. And in fact, one of the inspectors who's been there, I've said to him several times, you've never told us about this, or you've never, put it this way, and they're just. It seems like they're stepping on each other's toes because what they say does not coincide with what has happened before, or even with policies or regulations. It just seems like a blatant attempt to find anything and everything.
Well, if I recall, one of the folks involved with the area supervisor is a Linda Young, and she made it very clear to you and in front of your employees that she would keep coming back until she found something?
That is correct. That is one of the statements that our employees documented, her stating to 2 other inspectors. And so, of course, this has given us cause to, scrutinize their actions and scrutinize, what is being said, because it's obvious that they're looking for something. In an attempt to paint us in a bad light before the judge. And so that's why, we want to be able to document and show everything that's happening.
Now, if I recall correctly, you were making some videotapes while they were in the store?
That is correct. Videotaping them, and this kind of served 2 purposes. One, to kind of keep everyone in line and let them know that, we were, keep everybody well mannered, and also, make sure that any of the statements, such as that statement, were then documented, and that if they were wanting to make statements such as this and such as some of the other statements, that it was shown on video, on audio. And also to allow us to look back at the audits and for our own sake as well, if there's anything that we need to clarify at a later date.
Yeah, it would seem to me videotaping them would be good, considering they've made the statement. They'll keep coming back until they find something, because you never know if what they're going to find is something that they planted. Well, let me go into another question for you. Your sheriff has taken a keen interest in this, and from what I understand, he's not pleased with the ATF. And what can you tell me about this, and why would the sheriff be concerned?
The sheriff has contacted the ATF several times, asking why they're conducting conducting investigations and audits within his jurisdiction without his approval and without at least letting him know. And they have repeatedly just ignored him. And of course, according to the U.S. Constitution, also the Idaho Constitution as well, that the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer in this jurisdiction, and so he has just politely requested that they let him know. However, they had continued to simply ignore him despite his numerous requests. And so he has stated, and I have let him know when they have came in, at least the last 3 audits. So, which is interesting, because especially if they state that, they were intimidated or were scared or anything like that, the sheriff was fully aware that they were in, and I had let them know that they were in, despite them not telling him. So he has taken a good interest in this and has asked us to keep him informed, which we have.
Okay. You were kind enough to premiere the gang movie for us in Twin Falls, Idaho. Can we talk about the response you had from people who showed up as well as your customers?
We actually had a packed house both nights. In fact, Richard Salata with KT Ordnance, who has experienced his own troubles with the ATF, came down as well. And it's interesting because both nights the crowd was just completely quiet. And speaking with a lot of people beforehand, just it seemed more curiosity, what's going on. However, at the end of the showings, people were really upset, and it really put a lot of pieces to the puzzle as far as what is happening and what the ATF is doing, in an attempt to shut down our Second Amendment. And people were absolutely amazed that this could happen, especially right here, in America, and with and that this is even possible.
I know that you made an effort to get copies of the gang to some of the politicians that you have to deal with in Idaho. Have you had any feedback from them? Did they bother watching it? Have they said anything?
Some of their staff had actually requested a copy. I have not received much of an input back. A couple of the staffers had stated that it was particularly alarming what they saw, but from our congressional delegates and others, I really haven't heard a direct response back yet. So that's one of the things I keep pressing them on and keep asking. What is the response? How do they feel? Is this something that the gang paints it out and shows everything that's happening, and so it depends on what you want to do with it. If you want to simply discard the information, that's one thing. However, if you want to really look into it, it's amazing. Anyone who wants to dispute the gang, show reasons that you want to dispute the gang, because these are facts. These are documented facts.